Good evening and welcome to the October 6, 2019 legislative session of the Town Board. I'll officially call this meeting to order. I'll ask everyone to please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Cole? Here. LaFountain?
Here.
Metzler? Here. Moore?
Here.
Quinn?
Here. Okay, we do have one public hearing this evening, and before we start that public hearing, I'm going to take one item out of order. I'm going to recognize Councilwoman Linda Cole, and I'm going to recognize our library, and our librarian Bernadette Brinkman is here this evening. And Bunny, if you wouldn't mind joining Linda at the podium, please, for a brief proclamation. Thank you.
Our annual presentation. We were just together last night at Library Board, and here we are again for National Friends of Library Week, October 20th, 26th, 2019, Proclamation. And here it is. Whereas the Friends of the Penfield Public Library raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the work of the Friends highlight on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to present. Whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print, electronic materials, along with expert assistance in research, readers advisory, and children's services. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time, commitment to the library sets an example for all and how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now therefore be it resolved that R. Anthony LaFountain, Supervisor, proclaims October 20th to 26th, 2019 as Friends of the Library Week in Penfield, New York, and urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better. This is dated October 16th and signed by R. Anthony LaFountain.
Right.
Congratulations on another great year as the Friends of the Public Library.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say anything?
Just like to thank the Friends. They do earn some money for us to be able to provide the programming for all ages in our library and also for us to acquire additional services for the citizens of Penfield, which we wouldn't be able to do ordinarily out of our operating budget. So we owe a great debt of gratitude to the Friends. They deserve this proclamation, this recognition.
Excellent. Thank you, Bunny. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Linda.
I'd like to also give a shout out to our library and Bunny and her staff that do such a wonderful job. We are considered one of the top libraries within the library system, and that doesn't come by accident. That comes by a lot of hard work by the staff, a great team with the Friends, and certainly all of our residents who patronize that facility. So, Bunny, thank you as always. All right. We will move on to our public hearing. I'll recognize our clerk to please read the legal.
To allow a hair salon at 1782 Penfield Road, located in the Four Corners zoning district. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on September 26th, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 18 postcards were mailed.
Thank you. Mr. Horwitz, is this properly before the board?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you very much. I'll recognize the applicant. I'm not sure if it's going to be Sarah that's going to be addressing the board, but I would welcome you to the podium. We do have the materials that Jim Costello received from you, so the board has all of that material. We've had a chance to review that material. I'll just ask that you give a little bit of an overview of your business, in addition to not only number of employees, hours of operation, amount of parking that you might have, any other items that you believe are pertinent to the application. So again, welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sarah Sonati Lindberg, and I live on 5 Mile Line, just around the corner. It's like walking distance for me. I've been a hairstylist for 10 years now, and I saw that this place was available for sale, and it's kind of perfect. I don't need that much of a space. But I already have like a sound clientele, and I just need a place to operate out of. I anticipate putting like 3 stations in and having a couple renters. So possibly like 6 cars at the same time if it was crazy busy, but not like a big, salon.
I think you indicated that you have, as part of your entitlement for the shared parking, that you have 16 spots for that? Okay.
Yep.
So could you talk a little bit about hours of operation and, how many days a week that you plan on being opened or closed?
I'm closed Sunday, Monday. A lot of people need their hair later after work, so usually around like 11 to 8 at night. Yep. Sometimes early, around 9.
And will you be doing hair only, or do you have plans for other services?
So far, just hair, but maybe aesthetics in a couple years or so.
Okay.
Get started just with hair.
Got it. Okay. So at this time, if everybody was in working, operating, there would be 3 of you or 4 of you?
Just 2 for
Just
right
2?
now.
Just 2 for now? Okay, very good. And what do you have planned for signage?
My husband's actually, he's a welder, and he's creating a sign.
So he bought you a building, and he's making a sign. He's a keeper. He definitely is a keeper.
So it's going to be called Sonati's Salon, my maiden name. And it's going to be made out of metal and cut out. It's not that large of a sign. Maybe a couple foot.
Yeah, I don't see the exact details in these materials. We do have
Got
a
pictures.
photograph of, but I don't have the exact details.
A color one, because we have the black and white copy.
Yeah, it was just going to be black.
It's black.
And Sarah, where would you have that located?
Right out in front, kind of like how the for sale sign was. And I did talk to Anthony, who owns 1778
Right.
Bistro. And he's allowing me to put a sign on Liberty Street on
Okay.
his property.
All right. And so I would encourage you to work with Mr. Costello. I see him in the audience. I would encourage you to work with him as it relates to size and location, from a setback standpoint.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Very
I
good.
would suggest before your husband gets too far into the project, make sure that you check with Mr. Costello in terms of dimensions and everything, so you're within the code and you're not making him redo it.
Okay.
Do you plan on having any retail, selling products or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And Sarah, how much remodeling are you planning to do in the building?
Well, there's no sinks, so we have to do some plumbing. But other than that, we just took a peek in there, and with all of his stuff out and stuff, and it's a lot better than I thought that we were gonna
And a
have
little
to do,
bigger.
so,
And a little bigger than you thought, probably.
yeah. But not much needs to be done, a little paint.
Okay. So are you building any new walls, interior walls, or anything like that?
Nothing to the structure. no.
Okay, very good. Okay. Board questions, comments for the applicant?
I think you covered it all.
I don't have any.
Okay. So sit tight just a minute. I'll ask our clerk, did anyone sign up to speak at this public hearing?
Not for this public hearing.
Okay. And I'll ask the audience, is there anyone in the audience that did not sign up to speak but would like to speak at this time? Okay. Now I'll recognize Mr. Costello, Development Services Director. Mr. Costello, I'll ask you, is there anything that we have not received or heard this evening that you believe would be pertinent to this application? All right. And one last opportunity for the board. Any additional questions, comments for the applicant? And to the applicant, any additional questions or comments for the board?
Nope.
Okay, so let's talk about next steps. The next time the board will discuss this matter will be next Wednesday. That'll be the next earliest time. We do that here in this room. We do it at those back tables at our work session. You're welcome to attend. If you cannot attend, I would encourage you to just stay in touch with Mr. Costello. He can keep you updated. If you live in Penfield and you've got channel 1302 or 3, you can watch this live on TV, so that's another opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time. Seeing no further input or comments, I'll declare this public hearing closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll continue on with our agenda. I'll ask and recognize the town clerk to start us off with communications and announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Beginning October 26th through November 3rd, registered voters in New York State will have a first experience of early voting. Individuals can go to a designated voting center in Monroe County to complete their ballot for the 2019 general election. The hours of these locations will vary day to day, opening early some days and staying open later others. The Penfield Town Hall will be one of 7 county-wide centers offering early voting. The current planned hours are available on the town's website calendar at penfield.org. Voters are likely to see new equipment at the early voting centers. Electronic poll books, known as e-poll books, will be necessary to make sure voters only vote once. Individuals will not be able to go to another center and cast a ballot. Votes casted at an early voting center will not be counted until election night. Those who vote on Tuesday, November 5th, will go to their registered polling location to cast a ballot. All information regarding this year's election is available at monroecounty.gov/elections. With early voting and Election Day happening at the Town Hall, the mobile DMV will not be available in Penfield on Tuesday, October 29th or November 5th. Service will resume here in the auditorium on Tuesday, November 12th. That's it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Quinn?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. 2 announcements. Next week, October 21st through 25th, is National School Bus Safety Week, an active education program that serves as a reminder to the importance of safety in school bus transportation. This year's theme is My School Bus, the Safest Form of Student Transportation. While school districts throughout the country will be observing School Bus Safety Week, this is a time to remind motorists that the penalties for passing a stopped school bus were increased by the New York State Legislature earlier this year. Whether on the roadways or on school grounds, when a bus's red lights are flashing, you must stop. School bus transportation plays a critical role in the education of students, and it is important to keep school bus safety in the forefront of everyone's minds. Second, it's time to turn our clocks back 1 hour, as daylight savings time is coming up on Sunday, November 3rd at 2 a.m. While setting your clocks back, take the opportunity to do a quick and easy review of your household emergency safety plan. Testing the batteries in your smoke alarms and CO2 detectors is the first line of defense in escaping from a house fire or gas leak. Smoke alarms should be replaced every 10 years and should be on every floor of your home and in each sleeping area. It is important to maintain an emergency plan in your home, so don't forget to turn the clocks back and test your alarms on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Metzler?
I have 2 announcements this evening. First, the Shepherd Home in Penfield is holding a mum sale fundraiser through October 31st in partnership with Bauman's Farm Market. Individuals can stop by Bauman's at 1345 Mile Line Road to pick out a mum for $10. Please mention to a staff member there that your purchase is for the Shepherd Home, and $5 will be contributed to the fundraiser. This sale helps continue to the mission of Shepherd Home to provide comfort and compassionate care to members of our community facing a terminal illness. Details about Shepherd Home can be found at their website at www.shepherdhome.org. Also, fall is now in full swing, which means that leaves are not only covering our yards, but also the catch basins. Our Department of Public Works and the Engineering Department would like to remind everyone that if you see a catch basin blocked by leaves or other yard debris, please remove the items clear of a drain, allowing for proper stormwater flow. Using a rake helps an individual from having to enter a roadway while reducing the amount of waste that falls back into the basin. If left within a storm drain, leaves not only can cause flooding of our roadways, but they also release unnaturally high levels of nutrients into our water system. Composting leaves on your property is also a resourceful option in removing of them. The town performs a variety of stormwater maintenance activities throughout the year, but your assistance is always appreciated. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The town's annual Family Halloween Fun Night will be held Friday, October 18th from 6 p.m. at the Community Center, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Community Center. Join your friends and neighbors for games, trick-or-treat, hayrides, crafts, music, and more. The town would like to thank Woody Acres and the Rothfuss family for their generous contributions to this event this year. All activities are free in the evening. Information on this Halloween activity is available at Penfield Rec Fall Brochure or penfieldrec.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Cole.
I have three announcements, but the first announcement's really a thank you to the community. The 9th annual Penfield Community Bike Drop was held on October 5th and resulted in 420 bikes being donated. This is the biggest event since the inception. 1,890 bikes have been donated over since 2011 to Our Community Bikes. Through this effort, Our Community Bikes collects and repairs these bicycles for distribution, free of charge, to Rochester Region's less fortunate children and adults. Thank you to Penfield Rotary and the Penfield Recreation Department for collecting the bikes each year, and thank you so to everyone for making a difference in someone's life. And my other announcements. This fall, the Penfield Players will be performing the comedy Rex's Exes by Jesse Jones, Nicholas Hope, and James Wooden. Rex's Exes continues the story of three Verdine cousins who were introduced in 2017 during the Players' production of the Red Velvet Cake Wars. 6 performances are scheduled for Friday, Saturday evenings at 8 p.m. during the period of October 25th to November 9th. Sunday, November 3rd, there will be a 2 o'clock matinee. The show will be held at the Community Center on Baird Road and is directed by Sue Zuris. Tickets can be purchased online at penfieldplayers.org or by phone at 585-340-8655 or at the door on the night of the production. Come enjoy your community theater this fall with Rex's Exes, where nothing in the story goes according to plan, bringing hilarious effort. And my last announcement is that my monthly community chat that I have is going to be on Tuesday, November 19th, in the new book area at the Penfield Library, if you'd like to stop by. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to our next item, which is public participation. 2 opportunities to do that. If you're here in the audience, you can address the board on any matter. You can call in at 340-8771, or you can log on at penfield.org. And I'll first recognize, has anyone signed up to speak? And if you haven't, don't rush to sign up. We'll get to you right after we get to those that have signed up. So do we have anyone that would like to address the board?
Debbie Draw.
Debbie Draw, County Legislator, 9th District, my legislator.
Mr. Supervisor, Debbie Draw, 5 Cobblestone Crossing in Penfield. Mr. Supervisor and members of the town board, I come before you tonight after reading and reviewing the Town of Penfield 2020 budget. I am asking you to vote for this beautiful budget tonight. I applaud you for being fiscally responsible with a savings of it's about $411,000 over that, I believe, and staying under the tax cap, something that's not easy to do. As a resident of over 35 years here in Penfield, as Mr. LaFountain said, your county legislator, also a former town board member. I'm proud of this budget. I hope you all vote, and I think it maintains the quality of services that we've come to know and appreciate here in Penfield, and I, for one, this is one of the reasons I call Penfield home. So I thank you for that, and all the hard work I know that goes into it, from all the work behind the budget. So I encourage you to vote for it tonight.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has signed up?
No, they have not.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to additions and deletions, and I'll recognize Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. One addition to tonight's agenda, it's Resolution 19T-193, titled Authorization for the Town Board to Waive Marriage License Fees for Active Duty Members of the Armed Forces. Thank you.
I second that addition.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. That will be Resolution 193 under new business. We'll move on to approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes. I'm going to take one at a time and vote on them individually. First, we have the September 18th, 2019 minutes before us, and would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I move that the minute, oh, are we doing that? I'm going to move the minutes? You're moving the minutes.
We are.
Okay.
You're moving the September 18th minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the September 18th minutes. Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Next, we have the September 25th, 2019 minutes, and again, I'll ask for a motion of approval for those minutes.
I move that the minutes of September 25th be approved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on those minutes. Seeing none, I would ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Has the town board, town attorney, or town clerk received any petitions since our last get-together? Seeing none, we'll move on to resolutions by function. We'll begin with law and finance.
Budget amendments and transfers in the general fund.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas contractual service appropriations in the building department require an increase in fees collected. Whereas registration and attendance for programs at the recreation department require an increase in appropriations from program fees collected. Whereas the Director of Public Works requires a transfer in the parks account for parks maintenance activities. Whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current appropriation and revenues, be it resolved that the 2019 budget amendments and transfers be approved. For the record, transfer in general fund, one of the amendments, or I'm sorry, all the amendments in the amount of $32,446 to appropriations under contractual services, town gardens, the recreation deer program, and youth soccer for $32,446. Transfer in the amount of $8,000 under park light duty equipment to the parks maintenance budget line in the amount of $8,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. See no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. Adoption of final budgets for fiscal year 2020 for the town of Penfield.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town board of the town of Penfield, having on the second day of October 19th, commencing at 7 p.m., duly held a public hearing on the preliminary budget for fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020. Whereas in addition to the above legal requirements, a presentation of the 2020 tentative budget was made at the town board meeting on September 18th. Whereas all persons desiring to be heard on the matter of the budgets of the town of Penfield for fiscal year 2020 have been heard. Now therefore be it resolved that the final budgets for general, highway, library fund, and special districts be and the same hereby adopted as annual budgets for fiscal year starting January 2020, and such annual budgets also adopted be entered in detail in the minutes of the proceeding of this town board, and the annual budget made available for public inspection at the Penfield Town Clerk's office during normal business hours, as well as the finance office at the Penfield Town Hall at 31 Atlantic Avenue and at the Penfield Public Library at 1985 Baird Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so discussions, comments, thoughts, ideas, 2020 budget.
Paul, you want to go?
I'll make some comments. Almost called you Your Honor, Mr. Supervisor.
You're welcome. You're welcome, ma'am.
Certainly, a lot of work has gone into this budget from our various department heads, all the way down through certainly our staff who provide assistance in preparing the budget as well. I wanted to make a couple comments this evening with respect to the portion of the budget that deals with the Justice Court. Many residents that I speak to don't realize that unlike many tiers of courts in our court system, the town court is a court that is funded by the town, by the municipality, not by New York State. So we are responsible for the budget for the town court, its employees, its operating costs, and the revenue as well. I'd like to commend Judge Mully and the court clerks at the Penfield Town Court for this year, taking a really hard look at their budget from last year, taking a look at their actual costs and what their needs would be for this coming year. And unlike other years, I think they really took a more detailed look this year. As liaison to the town court, I was able to have discussions with Judge Mully and his staff regarding what their needs would be for the coming year. And I just want to make a couple comments regarding that, because certainly these are tax dollars that are being used to fund and to support our justice court over on Baird Road. As I've also talked to residents, they're not familiar with the revenue that comes in and the fines that are coming into the town court, which certainly are used to offset a lot of expenses. We took a look at the revenue, and it was estimated to be a little bit reduced for this coming year, and I can say that the state is taking a big chunk of the fines. In 2018, the total revenue that came into Penfield Town Court was $302,000. Of that, 63% was mandated to go right to New York State. That's $188,000 went to New York State from the town of Penfield. Only 5% goes to the county. That was about $17,000. And of that $302,000 of revenues, that's fines and forfeitures, only 32% remains there, remains in the town court to be used. That's about $97,000. So you'll see in the budget about $100,000 is estimated for this coming year. There are some increases in expenses. We took a look at some of the mandates that are coming down from the state, some new changes in the law, including mandatory education for court clerks. So they'll be going to that more than they have been in the past due to the new requirements. There have been some changes in the law, but there's also been a real push by Judge Mully and his staff to bring the court up to date with respect to technology. There's some technological advances that can be made with respect to the website, as well as some technology to use in the courtroom that we've provided for or put into the budget to start moving the court forward in that regard. So there'll be improvements regarding technology and safety, court clerks' education, and again, I mentioned with the revenue, a little decrease in the revenue is anticipated because also, too, at the end of the day, unfortunately, the town only keeps around $97,000 of that revenue, about 32%. So I wanted to commend Judge Mully again, working very hard. He also is working very hard to secure dollars from the state to come back to us in the form of grants from the JCAP, the Justice Court Assistance Program. He's been very successful in the past in doing that, and we'll continue to do that. That's one way to try to get some of those dollars back that go to the state for us to continue our improvements in the Justice Court for the safety and the efficiency of the court procedures and processes. So that's all I had to comment about tonight.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'm going to just take a couple minutes to talk a little bit about the budget. First, I would like to thank our Finance Director, Barbara Churto, who's here in the audience today, for her hard work in putting together the budget. Also, I would like to thank our librarian, Bunny Brickman here, who joins us every year at this time, and the wonderful job she does at the library. And it truly is a tremendous facility, and you run a great operation, Bunny, so thank you for your efforts. Mr. Supervisor, I think it's worth a couple notes in gratitude to you and to the town staff for all of their work. You've really embraced and really taken the theme of transparency in government with allowing information to be accessible by Penfield residents, both on the town website and through Penfield Community Television, Dave Renner's operation here at PCTV. There's a preliminary budget that's available, and there's a tentative budget. The tentative budget on the town website is kind of an executive summary version, but there's also a preliminary budget which is much more detailed and really has line items of what individual budget items per department are and what the expenditures are, and some justifications for that. So it's a very detailed document. Also, we held a public hearing on October 2nd, which is required, and so we do that. But probably more importantly is the fact that you've always made yourself available and made the finance director, Barbara Churto, available to any resident that wants to come in and talk or need a little better understanding of how the budget process plays out and the impact to taxpayers. You also provide a supervisor's column every week, and you talk about the town budget there, inviting residents to take a look at it on penfield.org, our website. So there's ample opportunities for review for this public that I'm not convinced is offered in other towns throughout Monroe County. And I do want to note that Penfield does vote for its town budget before Election Day. We do that every year. We have done that every year, and I believe that we will be the first town of 19 towns in Monroe County that have made that commitment year after year after year to vote for the town budget before Election Day. And I think that is testimony to your efforts and the town board's efforts to embracing transparency in government. So thank you to that. One of the things that really struck me that I think is worth talking about too is I believe in the tentative budget is a pie chart, and I've got it right here, and I know this is kind of crude and it's tough to see, but I think it's worth talking about. It talks about the total property tax dollars for the Penfield taxpayer. So let's just take it in perspective. Let's just say for ease of math, if you want to call it that, your total property tax bill may be $10,000 a year. 68% of that total property tax bill goes to the school district. 24% of that total property tax bill goes to the County of Monroe. And 8% of that property tax bill is the responsibility of the town board that's up here and the supervisor. So if you just look at a $10,000, total property tax bill, you're looking at $6,800 of that going to the school district. They have a school board that votes for that. You have $2,400 going to Monroe County. They have a county legislature that votes for that. And then $800 or 8% goes to the town board. So we only control 8% of your total property tax bill. So I just think that that's worth pointing out, because sometimes people get confused when they pay their school taxes at the town hall that this board is responsible for your school taxes, and that is not the case. The school district is responsible for your for your school taxes. You just have the opportunity to pay for them here at the town hall or through other means. Another kind of diagram that I want to show that I thought is kind of newsworthy and kind of points out your commitment and the town board's commitment to fiscal responsibility in the town is the state comptroller put out a recent report about stressed conditions in municipalities, towns, counties, cities, villages. And so the lower your score is, the better score it is. So you want to have as low of a score as possible. And so if you look at the town of Penfield on this chart, and I know you really can't see it, but it is available, it's a public document, through the state comptroller's fiscally stressed communities report, the town of Penfield had a rating of 1.7. All towns in New York State had a rating of 5.4. And again, the lower your score is, the better that score is. Finger Lakes towns had a score of 4.5, and large upstate towns hit a score of 6.3. Some of our towns in Monroe County had scores of 5.0 and 3.0, and based on my research, the town of Penfield's score was one of the best in the entire county of Monroe of 19 towns. So again, independent verification of the fiscal responsibility that we have in this town and how serious we take it, and not just raising property taxes every year in order to pay the bills. So thank you for that and your commitment, Mr. Supervisor. The other diagram that I like to look at too as a town board member and as a resident are what are the town tax rates throughout the entire county of Monroe. And so again, there's 19 towns in Monroe County. Our tax rate is $2.78 per thousand. And that is the 6th lowest of the 19 towns. If you look at the town of Riga, they have no town tax rate because they have the mill seat landfill, which covers the entire town taxes. You look at the town of Henrietta, who would be the second lowest, and they have significant industrial and commercial development. I think we all know that along Jefferson Road and some of the industrial parks in Henrietta, which adds significant amount of tax revenue. Perrington has the High Acres landfill through tipping fees. Those revenues go to the town. And then Mendon and Parma obviously are much rural communities that don't have as many services for town residents. And then there's Penfield at $2.76. The most expensive town, the number 19, their property tax is $6.29. That's more than double what it is here in Penfield. If you want to look at it from a percentage perspective, that's roughly 77% higher than what we pay in the town of Penfield. You look at some other towns, let's just throw one out. You look at Irondequoit, that's $6.04. Again, Penfield is $2.78. You look at Brighton, that's $4.96. Again, Penfield's is $2.78. You look at the city of Rochester. Their tax rate for the 2019-2020 budget is $19.43. So the Webster School District is $21.85, and the Penfield School District is $26.74, and those are for the 2019 budget years. So again, Mr. Supervisor, thank you for your commitment in putting together a budget that is not requesting an increase in our tax rate, and certainly I appreciate that. One of the questions I have for you as supervisor, and this can kind of get a little confusing because it changes every single year, and that is healthcare costs for towns. Under your leadership, Penfield is a part of the healthcare consortium with many other towns. I think you have a leadership post, if not you've been the former president of that organization or current president, but can you tell us a little bit more about how that consortium benefits Penfield town taxpayers?
So the consortium that Mr. Moore is referring to is made up of 17 entities. So it's towns, villages, a couple of authorities, Water Authority, Rochester Housing Authority. And we're very fortunate that over the years, through a lot of hard work with MVP, who's the healthcare provider, and the work that we've done to try to manage and control costs, especially around wellness, for 2020, we'll record our first cut in healthcare costs for 2020. So you'll see and hear where a number of different communities, businesses, and things like that will be going up double digit. We will be passing off reduced costs to our employees for 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. When I went around, and I did have a couple conversations with the finance director and some conversations with department heads, and really started to analyze what I thought about the town budget. There's a couple things, a couple programs and initiatives that this budget contains, and I think it's worth mentioning some of those, just to name a few. First of all, mentioned it before, that the budget funds the library. There's over 200,000 visitors a year that come and go through the Penfield Library in that facility, and so I think residents are well served by that. Emergency services for Penfield residents. We provide some level of funding for emergency services. Roughly 10 parks in the town of Penfield and over 300 acres of parkland that are maintained with lodges in many of those. Playground maintenance. We have a lot of playgrounds, and the community really has embraced that, and those get wear and tear and require maintenance. That's a part of the budget. The rec center itself on Baird Road. The recreation department keeps setting all kinds of records for attendance. Every year I talk to Chris Bilo, the recreation director. He gives us a report to the town board. There's somewhere in the range of 1,000 programs that are offered to youth, adults,
adults and seniors through the Penfield Recreation Program, and it's outstanding. And I thank Chris for his leadership, and as I've said before, the Recreation Department today is in far better shape than it's ever been at any other time. The court system, as Councilwoman Metzler talked about, the town funds the court system here in Penfield. Town historian, youth services, the Historic Preservation Board. Not many towns have a Historic Preservation Board. Penfield has one. We fund that. July 4th fireworks and parade. That's always a great day. We have a lot of fun with that. People just rave about the parade. 4th of July fireworks. There's somewhere in the range of 8,000 to 10,000 people if it's nice weather watching those, and it's just a lot of fun and really shows a lot of pride in Penfield. Special events at the town, the food truck rodeo, the chili cook-off, Taste in the Blues, and the Halloween fun night that I mentioned earlier in my announcements, all paid for through this budget. Adult recreation programs called DEAR, which is daytime education at recreation for our seniors. Also the Conservation Board. Penfield has a Conservation Board. Penfield also has an Energy and Environment Board. Not many towns do have an Energy and Environmental Board. So if you look at those two, Conservation Board and Energy and Environment Committee or Board, it really shows our level of commitment to sustainability and what we're trying to do here in Penfield. Penfield Community Television, PCTV, Dave Renner and his team do an unbelievable job in videotaping all of these meetings. You have town board meetings, you have work session meetings, you have planning board meetings, you have zoning board meetings, and all the special events that they go to and film and then put it on penfield.org so people can watch them in the leisure of their homes, whether on TV or they can watch them through the town website. So thank you, Dave, and your team for all your efforts. Website streaming. Not a lot of towns do website streaming. We do that here in Penfield. Memorial Day ceremony, road repairs, new sidewalks. Again, sustainability, walkability, and connectability here in the town of Penfield, all a part of the budget. Plowing roads, over 287 roads get plowed whenever there's snow on the ground. Those are lane miles of roads. Sewer maintenance, kind of the fun stuff that everybody likes to talk about. Over 359 sewer miles throughout the entire town. The town is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of those sewers. Street lighting. Amphitheater series, over 5,700 attendees at the Amphitheater series concerts this year, whether they're the jazz, whether the youngster concerts, or just general shows that we have at the amphitheater. Again, great attendance every year. It also includes savings to the town of Penfield that we get through our solar array at the Penfield Highway Department. That will offset utility costs in the 2020 town budget. So smart thinking, sustainability, embracing environment and conservation, the solar array lowers costs to taxpayers, and the payback time on that was less than a few months. I think it was less than 3 months. The town has 3 electric charging stations, one here at the town hall, one at the Harris Wayland Park, and one at the community center. And then the box lacrosse field operation moving into 2020. And Mr. Supervisor, if you can take a minute and talk about that. I know construction has started for the box lacrosse field at Rothfuss Park and the excitement around that from the boys and girls lacrosse programs.
So that project is underway. We've got a little bit behind, a little bit due to weather, a little bit due to having to order some additional materials for a storm and sanitary sewer interface. The team is working on that very actively. We're very optimistic that in early November we'll be able to do a ribbon cutting. And I know that the Penfield Youth Lacrosse, as well as a number of other entities, have really embraced that new field, that new service that we'll be providing at Rothfuss Park, and looking forward to that ribbon cutting coming up here shortly.
Great, thank you. And I know that was a partnership with Senator Funke also in securing funding for that. So I'd like to thank Senator Funke for supporting us on that initiative. And again, the Penfield girls and boys lacrosse programs are looking really forward to that being open. So thank you. The maintenance of Jack's Playground, that's the dinosaur playground at Rothfuss Park, that's a part of this budget. And then with Shadow Pines, you know, a continuation of community use at Shadow Pines. We had a Shadow Pines Land Use Committee made of 12 resident members throughout the entire town of Penfield. And they put out recommendations of what potential uses could be. And this board has embraced those recommendations, and one of the recommendations to the town board was to enlist a master plan for that property, and that's what we've done. We're moving forward in the next few months with a master plan for the Shadow Pines property and look forward to community engagement. There will be public participation in that, in what the final master plan will have for the future of Shadow Pines. You know, so these are just a few things that I wanted to mention that are part of this 2020 budget. There's a lot more that we could go into detail for, but I just thought I would highlight those quality of life services that we enjoy here in Penfield and will continue moving into 2020. In summary, Mr. Supervisor, I mean, the 2020 town budget is a good budget. It's good for residents. It keeps the property tax rate flat, meaning no increase in town taxes. It maintains a high level of services for Penfield residents, and it is below the mandated state property tax cap. In fact, it's significantly below that state property tax cap. It also demonstrates, in my opinion, this town's level of commitment to fiscal responsibility under your leadership, and I would strongly encourage this board to support this budget moving forward, which does not raise the property taxes here in the town of Penfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Well, I also support the budget, but I think what Mr. Morris said covers everything, the reasons why we support the budget. There's so much that's done in the town and we don't raise the taxes. So that's all about fiscal responsibility, and our town supervisor leading the charge, and our finance director, Barbara Churdo, and I thank her very much for all she does to present the budget and make it in simple terms about where the money goes. And I thank you, Tony, for all you do with this.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job by Councilman Moore. I just would add just a couple comments regarding revenue. I know when I speak to groups, I speak to scouts sometimes to try to simplify taxes, and the pie chart that Andy mentioned, I say think about your paycheck and then try to run your house with 8% of it. And that's basically what we have to do every year to keep our taxes fiscally responsible as town board members, but we're also taxpayers as well. So that's the easiest example I give to scouts and to seniors. Sometimes when I'm speaking to senior groups, and I say, take what you comes into your house every month, take 8% of that and live off of that and pay your bills. So again, that's a real example of fiscal responsibility. Another thing that Supervisor LaFountain has done in cooperation with Eric Tate of our Department of Public Works is seeking out additional revenue. We don't really have a lot of opportunities for revenue other than taxes in the town, and I mentioned a small amount coming in through the court system. However, our Department of Public Works is so highly regarded throughout the area that we are chosen to do projects for the school district, chosen to do projects at MCC or for the County of Monroe. That's a source of revenue that enables us to present this budget under Supervisor LaFountain's leadership, and we will continue to seek out those sources of revenue, provided that those types of projects fit within the schedule and priorities within the Public Works Department as well. So I commend not only Supervisor LaFountain, but my fellow board members as well, my fellow taxpayers sitting here, that we take this job very seriously. This is probably the most important vote that we do every year. And I'm very proud to support this budget again. And I just think that of the towns in the county, and taking a quick look at some other proposed budgets, we've definitely done something pretty remarkable here this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Before I ask for the roll to be called, I'd just like to recognize a couple of people. So certainly the person that I deal with each and every day, and we work very closely on this budget and putting this together for the town board, is our finance director, Barbara Chertow. This is Barbara's 5th budget, and I think as time has gone on, she has helped us really get into some areas and help identify ways to increase revenues as well as reduce costs. And for that, Barbara, thank you. I do appreciate that. We have a couple of our department heads here. Bunny Brickman from the library, Jim Costello, Development Services. If it wasn't for the great team that we have around the table for our department heads, who really have a good finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community, know what needs to be done, what needs to get done. They're the ones that bring all of this forward so that Barbara and I are able to shape it into the budget that we present to the town board. Ahmed Mustafa, so this is a special night out for him. He probably didn't have anything else going on. In addition to his full-time job, he's the president of the board of directors for NEQUALS. He dabbles in Webster EMS. And is this a date night? And he brings you to the Penfield Town Board. But I'd like to recognize Ahmed as well as the Penfield Volunteer Ambulance. It's those two organizations that do so much. This year, Ahmed came to Barbara and myself and talked about the need to increase the budget. And it was for the ongoing services, the ongoing needs for our residents. And as we sat and discussed that, anytime we look at any type of increase, regardless of what it is, we look at that very seriously. I will say that Ahmed came to the table with a lot of facts and details. He was able to share why we needed to do that, why it was so important to do that. And I'm delighted that we were able to incorporate that as part of the budget because, again, when I at some point ever have a problem, I look up, it's Ahmed or one of his team members or somebody from Penfield Ambulance that I want to be looking at because they do such a great service. So thank you for the public service in addition to the work that you do on your normal day-to-day overall. So with that, and again, thoughts and thank yous to all of our team for such a great job. I will ask our clerk to please call the roll for the 2020 budget.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, and to our finance director, I will say hopscotch ale to your next location as we start the 2021 budget tomorrow.
We'll see you at 6 a.m.
We'll move on to our next resolution.
Authorization for supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for the Stormwater Coalition of Monroe County.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town of Penfield recognizes the importance of protecting water quality and the value of water resources. Whereas the town of Penfield has been a member of the Stormwater Coalition of Monroe County since its inception in the year 2000. Whereas the town board has determined that it is in the best interest of the town to continue participation in this coalition. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute Stormwater Coalition intermunicipal agreement subject to the review and approval of the Penfield town attorney.
Thank you. Discussion. I would just take a moment to recognize Mr. Mark Valentine, who's our town engineer and also director of planning. Mark has been involved with this group. This group has come a long ways to assist communities across Monroe County, and it's a valuable service that we partake in and the county of Monroe oversees. So thank you to Mark and his team for making sure that we're doing all the right things for water quality in and around stormwater management. Roll call, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. This brings us down to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, new business. We have one resolution, and I'll ask the clerk to please read that resolution.
Authorization for town board to waive marriage license fee for active duty members of the armed forces.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas on August 20th, 2019, New York State passed a law waiving state fees on marriage licenses for active duty members of the armed forces. Whereas the Domestic Relations Law, Section 14A, Subdivision 3 states that a town may elect to waive the fees for any certificate when either party making application for certificate required by the Veterans Administration or by the Division of Veteran Affairs of the State of New York to be used in determining the eligibility of any person to participate in the benefits made available to Veterans Administration or by the State of New York is an active duty member of the Armed Forces of the United States. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Penfield hereby waives a portion of the marriage license fee to which the town is entitled for active duty members of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion.
I'd like to make a couple of comments regarding this. Certainly when this was proposed for us to take advantage of this opportunity to waive this local fee for our service people, I can say without hesitation, we all immediately said, let's do this, let's get this on the agenda, and let's get this passed. This is more personal to me than it may have been in the past. My nephew is a recent Penfield High grad and is on active duty at Fort Campbell with the 101st Airborne, due to be deployed at any time. And I can say firsthand in our family that I've experienced how new active duty members and active duty members of armed services, they're trying to get on their feet, they're just becoming independent for the first time, and whatever we can do to assist them in that, I think we should certainly do from the town board standpoint. So I certainly support this, and I am looking forward to letting him know that we passed this tonight, not encouraging him to get married quite yet. He's only 19, but I certainly like to pass along when we, as a legislative body, are able to assist those who are protecting our country for us.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. This brings us to our second public participation. If you're in the audience, you can address the board on any matter. You can call in at 340-8771, or you can log on at penfield.org, and the board will recognize the president of the board of directors for NEQUALS.
So first of all, Supervisor LaFountain, I would like to say thank you very much for recognizing me in the audience for all that we do as EMS and first response in the town of Penfield. Councilman Moore, I think you're very right. When you think about the town of Penfield and some of our neighboring towns, the transparency and the visibility we have to how our government runs is unprecedented in many communities. And, just looking at the audience here tonight, people on TV, I think we should take advantage of it. I mean, we joke that there was nothing on TV, but if you can't come here, you can watch it. It's video cast for later. I think when people talk about, well, how's my budget dollar spent, and why is it so big, and taxes, and Supervisor Nesbitt talks about this in Webster quite often. There's no reason for you not to know. Just ask. And my experience with this town board has always been, if you ask a question, you will get an educated answer. And that is something I think too many people are happy to complain, but few take the initiative to come get the right information directly from the source. And the town of Penfield affords us that opportunity, and people should take advantage. And lastly, Councilman Quinn, smoke detectors are every 10 years. CO detectors are every 7 years. So they're on a different cycle. And if your CO detector starts at chirping 2 in the morning before you call the fire department, please flip it over. It will tell you if the frequency is at certain times that the detector has expired. And you should pay attention to that, just like you're doing your smoke detectors this year. And the last comment I will make is the other day we had a child struck by a car on Creek Street. As Halloween is coming, please make sure that your children are supervised, that their suits have good visibility, that they're properly illuminated, and they're not cutting through yards, traffic, and neighborhoods, because it will be dark, drivers won't necessarily be aware, and the last thing they want to do is see me or any of my friends on Halloween night. So thank you very much.
I'm always interested in having a guest author for my weekly column. And so if you'd like to shoot me some information about some things around Halloween, EMS, personal safety, things like that, I'll give you full credit for that as part of the column.
All right, you'll have it before the end of the weekend.
I know I will. I know I will. I apologize for that. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the board on any matter? Okay, seeing none and seeing no further business to come before this board this evening, the October 16, 2019 meeting will stand adjourned at 8 o'clock, right on the dot. I want to recognize and thank everyone that participated tonight. I'd also like to recognize and thank PCTV. Have a great evening. Thank you.